Welcome everybody back to the Sweet Spot. Today I'm so pleased to introduce to you Helen Edwards from Recycled Interiors. She has touched my heart very much because I have done one of her courses and bavoomed my home essentially. But she will talk to you more about that later. So what you want to know about her is that she is on a mission to inspire you to think before you buy, reduce your waste in your home, and lighten your footprint on the planet. And so all while creating a happy, healthy home and a life that you love. She's also got 3 boys who are all a little bit older, and so in a different stage of motherhood to what I'm in. And also a husband, and I'm not too sure. Do you even have a dog, Helen?
We have 2 cats and a budgie that found us.
Beautiful. Welcome, Helen. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Lovely to be here.
Thank you. So let's just straight off the bat, for you as a working mother, and you have worked your whole entire life, what's the hardest thing about that?
Actually, it's interesting because I just wrote a blog post this morning about this. So
Really energy.
About how to reconnect with what matters and tips for being happier. And the core of that really is about my children and about the balancing and juggling that we have to do as mums when we're also in paid work or work that's outside the home, because you might be in voluntary work that's not paid, but it's still taking you away from your children and your family and the things that you need to do to run a healthy, happy household. And so I think for me, it's certainly always been, I when I worked for somebody else, which I did for the first couple of years of my first child's life, so my children are 22, 17 and 7. So still got like quite a way to go with the little one. Yeah. But the older one, I left my job when he was about 2. I actually had to go on stress leave from the work that I was doing in child protection. So I had post-traumatic stress and I was very unwell. So after that, I was sort of on shunted around different places, and I left my job in 2001, the end of 2001, and went off and became an entrepreneur, although I didn't know that. I didn't call myself that. It seems to be trendy now to say that word, so I've only just sort of seen myself as that in recent times. But I went off and started my own stuff, and from that point, one of the reasons I did that was because I wanted to have a second child, and I felt that working from home would make it easier to be able to spend more time with my children.
Yep.
And being on somebody else's time schedule.
Yep.
But at the same time, that made it more difficult because there felt like with both my second and third baby, there really wasn't any time off. You know, it was kind of like I continued to work once I was over those first 4 to 6 weeks. So you kind of just back straight into working because you're home and you're working from home and it's your thing, so you need to do it. And my mother would travel with me all around Australia while I was breastfeeding and sort of thing. So the juggling and the balancing and the feeling that you're never quite doing everything well enough. So the sense that you sort of see mums who are stay-at-home mums who are doing all the things and getting involved in school and doing all the stuff, which I certainly did with my first son. I did the reading and all the rest with a baby in a carrier. But with my third son, I'm just so busy that, I take him into school every day. And I go to all these assemblies and things because I can, because I work for myself, which is absolutely wonderful. But I'm not in the school doing a lot of stuff or, being involved in doing the coaching of the sports teams and stuff, which he doesn't want to do anyway, because that's a whole different story. But I had less time for that. So there's that sense that I should be doing more with the kids. And then with your work, if you're doing stuff with the kids, there's that sense that you've got this list of things that you need to do. So I think that balance and juggling, feeling that you're not maybe doing as brilliantly as you could in both aspects of your life, but coming to accept that you are actually doing a bloody good job everywhere. That's been a lesson that I've learned over the last, I think probably with my third child, I probably learned that lesson.
Right.
I struggled more with my second.
Right. So you're a good 15 or so years into mothering before you before you started patting yourself on the back for doing everything that you were doing?
Yeah, I reckon it's probably only been in the recent last few years that I stopped putting so much guilt on myself about, and even then I still do it. I will still do it. I will still think to myself, I forgot photo. It was photo day yesterday or the day before. I forgot. So, the note didn't go to buy the photos, but then we all agreed we didn't need the school photo anyway. And then today I realised with 5 minutes to go that we were supposed to have a history of Maxwell's life that he was going to stand up and talk about. We had 5 minutes. I just discovered this note in the bag, so we were pulling photos off the wall and shoving toys in a bag so he could do his little speech.
I just walked past a note. I just walked past a note on the fridge earlier that it was for Lawson to get a photo of his family to school on Wednesday, which was yesterday.
Hello. So that and I
We've
think
all been there.
It's important that we like, we always have a good laugh about those kind of things. My third son lives with high functioning autism, so he can get very fixated on things, and if they're not right, it can cause us big problems. But he also has to learn to roll with the punches when it comes to our lives, because they are. He was like, "Oh, we're a bit too busy doing homework. I think we won't be able to do homework because you're a bit too busy." We don't believe in homework in primary school anyway, so we won't be supporting that.
Yeah.
So I think that would be, in a long-winded answer, that's probably the biggest thing, I think, when you've got to be multiple things.
Yeah, for sure. And you've actually, after speaking to you last week, you've gone through a massive change in your work over the last just a really short period of time. Can you tell us about that, Helen?
Yeah, well, as I said, I started a not-for-profit. Actually, I live with type 1 diabetes since I was 12, and I started diabetes counselling online. I left my job at the end of 2001 when I discovered the internet, because I just fell in love with the idea that there could be something we could do with technology to reach out to people, because it was at that stage, and it's not that long ago really, and it was I just thought, this is something here. Yeah. So I was able to take a package and leave my job, a small package, but enough to keep us going for a couple of years, and started diabetes counselling online. And it was very, I was able to get grants and turn it into a not-for-profit, and worked really hard. I studied for a year at uni and got my diabetes educator qualifications, and became one of the most highly respected people when it comes to mental health and diabetes. I was doing a PhD in diabetes, which I got a scholarship for. I won a $1.2 million grant in 2012 for that organisation, had a team, was doing all this reporting and doing all this stuff, trying to do a PhD at the same time, and it was all crazy. And partway through that, in 2013, I just thought, I have to do something else, which would seem dumb, because I was already, had this grant, and I had this PhD, and I was at the top of my career in that area, in that field. But I was just burnt out from diabetes, and I felt a bit trapped, because I kind of felt like I'd been led down that way by our outside influences. There was a lot of academics that were pushing me to get this grant and to do this PhD and so on, which was not what I really wanted to do, but I also needed to get an income. I kind of went that way, and I started Recycled Interiors because I felt the need to do something that wasn't related to diabetes. And I'd always been very, very creative, and I always wanted to be a writer, paint, write poetry, write stories. I wanted to be a journalist. And so creativity was really what my jam was. And my parents are hippies and very creative in English and drama teachers and so on. But it was kind of like, yeah, but you've got to take a career path, and that's not a job. Being creative is lovely, but it's not going to make you a living.
Yep.
I remember the first, before Recycled Interiors, I just started a blog on, I can't even think of what it's called, but it's one of the blogging platforms, and I'd called it a place called me, because I think I felt like I'd lost myself, because I was just swamped by all of this massive infrastructure and reporting and pushing and pulling and personality problems in my team, and just all this stuff that was suffocating me into my creativity. Because I hate reporting and budgeting and having to plan. I'm very spontaneous and impulsive. So anyway, I started that, and then I decided to actually start Recycled Interiors. I thought, let's do something that fits with my passion for the world. my passion for home, my thoughts about sustainability. I want to make an impact in the world somewhere bigger than diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
And environment is very, very important to me.
Yeah.
Oh, I started this other thing while I was doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
And
You didn't have enough going on.
And then I kind of just got drawn right into that, and I spent a lot of time growing that and focusing on that, and it grew very quickly. I even had talent agencies calling me that, TV shows and all sorts of things, and I'm thinking, oh my God, that people want this. You know, there's an audience for this. This is going to be bigger than I realised. But I had to keep doing the diabetes stuff. So I kept doing it, and it was a really difficult couple of years. It was a very successful project, so that finished last July.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a relief for me that it was finished. And so since then I've struggled financially, because it was great having that grant because I had an income for 3 years, and I could just concentrate on doing things without worrying about where was money coming from. And it was great because my charity could function also without having to scrounge around, because we had plenty of years with no money. Where we, you know, basically my mum, my auntie and I just worked our asses off to bring funds in so we could keep supporting people. We were supporting thousands of people with diabetes across the world.
Yeah.
So I kind of struggled the last 6, 7, 8 months, and was really wondering, what am I doing here? Like I kind of got, again, directed by outside influences towards starting a social media business, because a lot of people were wanting to know, how did I grow recycled interiors? How did I get 65,000 Facebook fans? And, you know, how did I do this stuff? So I started just off the cuff helping people. And then I got mentored a little bit and turned it into a business. And then I did a 7-day startup program with a group of entrepreneurs. And during that time shifted from just launching the program you did, 30 Days to Have a Healthy Home. I was going to launch another version of that a bit more formally. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to launch my social media business. Because I kind of got directed by all these entrepreneurs. So I in fact came in the top 3 or 4 people in that challenge, because I just created this whole business. So I changed the business name. I had a website. I've got a new domain name, registered trademark. You know, just did all this because I just did it all in 7 days, and boom, there was this new business.
Wow.
And I'm going, hey, I don't know if I want this new business. What am I doing? My God.
Yeah.
And then when someone asks you what you do and you can't tell them, you know you've got a problem. What you do and you say, well, I'm a social worker and a charity founder, and I'm a stylist, I'm a blogger, I'm a social media trainer. They just start going, who are you? Who is this person?
Yeah.
Then you know you've got a problem. And so it was only probably the last 8 weeks, I think.
Yep.
I really, since I launched that Care for Social, that new business, and I was getting work. I was working with Charles Darwin Uni. I was doing, you know, it was starting to really happen for me. And then I had this koala experience. I had this epiphany where I'd been going on my regular walk. I do 3, 4, 5 times a week around our local area. Got lots of trees around close to the foothills, so we quite often get wildlife. We see koalas reasonably often. But I just kept seeing this one koala, really low down in the trees. I was walking to school. There's the koala. I'm going through here, and there's the koala, and here's the koala, and I was taking these pictures, and I was getting known as the koala whisperer. And then one day, he was sitting at I thought, what's that? It's a dog. He was sitting at the end of the track. I could see him. He's sitting by the side of the road. And I went up, and I've got video of it. He walked up to me, and he was literally licking my feet, and he was kind of wanting to climb me into my arms. And I'm thinking, this is really weird.
All about international viewers, you know, because there's a lot of
really
people
odd.
If this does not happen.
Really odd. And I got video of him and so on. And then I coaxed him back into the track with water because I was worried he was going to get run over. But I had this experience, and then I came home and said to my middle son, you know what I really should have done in my life? I just should have done something to do with animals and the environment. I should have just gone and been a park ranger or something, you know, instead of being a social worker and all that stuff. And he said, well, why don't you? And I said, because I'm 49 this year. I'm not going to go back and become a whole new thing. This is what I've always done. I'm hopping around too much. And then I kind of went, hang on, I'm doing that. That's what recycled interiors is. I'm already doing it, and I want to be a writer. I'm already a writer. You know, it's already here. I just haven't seen it. So I
Yeah.
wrote this whole blog post about this epiphany, and then a friend of mine actually linked me to this thing that said about koalas. Apparently koala totem is all about creatives and writers and people stepping into what it is they should be doing. And, since that day, I have not seen that bloody koala.
Oh, I love those
And
stories.
I'm going, this koala, and I'm looking for, I've seen a couple of others, but not this one koala. He kind of like came into my life for 6 or 7 weeks to say to me, hello, Helen. So I just decided to drop absolutely everything except recycled interiors. We'd already decided last year at our AGM to fold the charity by June this year, so I'll be folding the charity. I also had an awful troll experience, and that's possibly still going, but I'm just trying not to see her. So that was also part of what kind of led me here, because that was not a very nice experience, and that was a diabetes-related thing. But I just, decided that I've done a lot for diabetes and I don't need to do any more. And I think I was probably finished a few years ago, but because I was managing the grant and so on, I needed to stay.
Sure.
So it's scary sometimes when you let go of something. And I think that's something that we all struggle with, is especially when you've created something. But there's a time to leave. It's like when my husband says to a football player, oh, retire now. Like, go out on a high. Don't, what. And last year I was a state finalist, actually for this year I was a state finalist in the Australian of the Year Awards for my work in diabetes, and last year I was a state finalist in the Telstra Businesswomen's Award for my work in diabetes. So it's kind of like a recognition from the world that you've done good, kid, and you don't have to keep doing it. And there's a lot more people now doing stuff online in diabetes. There's a lot more resources. There's a lot of diabetes bloggers now where there weren't when I started.
Yes.
So I can kind of hand the baton on and say, we've set this kind of culture up and people can go on now, and there's other people that can do that now. And that's fine. And I feel no regret. So that's how I know that's the time. And then I was going to continue my PhD, but my mentor sort of said, if you're not doing diabetes anymore, why are you doing it? Like, what's the end result? And I thought, yep, that's true. So I'm not completing that. And I'm not doing my social media. I'm leaving it there. There's an online course that's still on that site that people can go and do, but I'm not spending any energy on promoting or pushing or driving or growing or doing anything. And I'm just 100% focused. So I've started a book. I've gone back to writing that book, which is almost completed, which will be launched soon, and it's really exciting. And I'm running a free reader program that's related to that book around creating a sustainable home. And I'm just concentrating on working really hard on making recycled interiors bloody amazing.
Yes.
And as big as I can possibly make it to interact with as many people as I can. And I feel like the first time in my life I've got this focus. Well, not the first time, because I had that with the diabetes at the beginning. So at the beginning of my diabetes journey, I was extraordinarily focused, and that's why I succeeded.
Yes.
And so the last 5 years I've been watered down. And it goes back to that first question that you asked me about balancing and juggling and not feeling that you're doing well enough as a mum versus in your work.
Yeah.
And when you've got multiple aspects to your work, that's even more watered down.
Do you think your decision was brewing for a long time? Or
Yeah. I think I was probably overdoing the diabetes work, as I said, probably even before I got the grant, because it had been so hard to keep it going for a few years. But these academics sort of said, look, just have a try at this grant. And I never expected I would get it. I did. And then certainly during the grant, there were some issues that occurred that really made me not want to be there. And then when I got this troll sort of situation, which should have made me want to leave, and on its own it didn't, but it certainly contributed to that.
Yeah.
So I do think it was brewing, but I do also think that for me there was kind of that pinnacle moment where everything kind of aligned and said, just do it. You know, what even is the point? Life is short and there's no right or wrong, and there's nobody looking over your shoulder saying, if you don't do this kind of thing. It's the same when you start a project, if you run your own business in particular, which I presume quite a lot of your viewers will be doing. The amount of times I've started something and stopped it, I can't even count. Like, it's totally okay to do that. I put out, just before I made this decision, I was going to run this free 30-day Instagram program. And I was promoting it, created this great landing page. I had people signing up. And then I went, but I'm not doing that anymore. I've just decided not to do that business. And also this other dude is starting to do it. And he's got 600,000 Instagram followers. And he's got all these resources. And I'm like going, here's little old me, which again is not a reason not to do it. I just had to say some of us would have preferred to have learned from you, because you're not him. Like, we don't want to be Instagram dominators. We don't want the male entrepreneur energy. We want your female sort of caring, connected, smaller.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I was going to tell everybody. So I just emailed them, that all the ones that were already on the list, and said, look, guys, I'm sorry. Thanks for signing up, but I'm not going to do it. The world didn't end. You know, like,
and it takes a bit of bravery, but it's also about setting your boundaries and what's going to work for you and what's not, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which I think when we don't, we can go down the path and we're doing everything for everybody else and not what's right for us.
And that's what's happened to me. That's why I ended up in all these different push and pulls and everything else. And even now it keeps dangling in front of me, because I keep saying, go get a part-time job. I just had to borrow money off my mother. I'm 48 years old, you know, like, go get a part-time job, because it's going to take a while for this money to come in. And then I kind of go, that's going to take me away. It's going to take me away from this focus that I've just found. And, you know, my book will not be a bestseller because I won't have time to promote it, for example. So I think sometimes you've just got to try and not let all those invitations to do other stuff or get taken down a direction that you might have started, but you know, you can feel it's not right.
It's a really good point, you know, Helen, that when we are starting, we think that it's, you know, it is difficult always to start a new project. It takes a lot of energy and a lot of focus, and I really love that you've been honest with us and said, you know, it can be difficult and I've had to make sacrifices. And, you know, you've got to stay true to yourself, even when we feel wobbly and like we can't.
Yeah. And that's kind of just realising that, I don't know, maybe it's just where I am in my life, but kind of there's no magic formula to life. There's no one template about how you should live your life. So long as you're being a decent human being and you're not deliberately harming anybody else.
Yep.
Really just do whatever it is you want to do. I mean, I could go and wait tables if I really need to get a few $100s a week, you know, like you shouldn't be putting judgment calls on yourself about the way that you're choosing to get through the difficult patches, or when you're starting a business in particular or a new project. Yeah,
that's terrific. That's terrific advice. So one of the things that I'm wondering is, on a daily basis, what do you do to recharge your batteries?
Exercise is really, really important to me. Always has been, particularly because I live with type 1 diabetes, but just as a human being, I mean, it's vital to all of us. And I've lived with depression, as I've said, numerous times, and exercise really helps me with my mental health as much as my physical health. So I tried to build in, like, I've actually got my gym gear on now because I'm going to go today, and if it sort of seems stupid, but getting changed is a barrier. So if I'm dressed and ready to go, I'm more likely to walk out the door. It's hard enough with type 1 diabetes to get exercising, because a lot of balancing and juggling that goes on to get my blood sugar right to be able to exercise. So it's quite a difficult process. So I will walk my son to school, Maxwell to school, at least 2 or 3 times a week. And once I've got him there, it's about a 15-minute walk. Then I probably take about another 3/4 of an hour, and we've got National Park near us, so I walk back through all the beautiful trees, and with music on when I feel like music, and other times I just feel like listening to whatever sounds are around. So it's about an hour by the time I get back. And then 1 or 2 times a week I try to go to the gym during the day, and my son does his school online this year, so we go together mostly, which is nice. So exercise, I generally exercise 6 days out of 7. I try to give myself 1 day off. And I also like to read. I've gone through phases. Reading was always my thing, but I've gone through phases where I don't read because I'm on social media too much. So actually few books. Just reading Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic at the moment, actually, which I'm loving so far.
Yeah.
I'm trying to sit down and read. I like gardening. I like just pottering at home. So my husband and I are very similar, where we just like, we're not very social. We used to be when we were younger, but we don't really. He likes to go play sports, so he'll go play bowls once a week, or in the football season we'll go down to his old football club and stuff. So he likes that. But generally we like to kind of just be at home and do things at home together. So, digging in the garden, or he's like pergola or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And I quite like to do furniture up and that sort of thing. But yeah, I think for me on a daily basis, I think it's music and exercise. The gym exercise doesn't fill me up so much. It doesn't recharge my batteries. That's more done for the point of the exercise. But being outside nature, and I'm also a singer, so when I've got my music on, I'm singing at the top of my lungs. I don't care who hears me. Says woman walking around the streets of Adelaide just singing. And the combination of singing and the lyrics in the songs, which inspire me, and the trees and the sky and the birds and the movement, that's kind of my antidepressant, I think.
Beautiful. Great tip. And I think the green of nature is meant to be very alkalizing for our bodies. So it's way better than going to the gym.
Well, I was reading something the other day, because I'm always encouraging everyone to get outside. Something about the oxygen, the air, the atmosphere in forests. It actually has sort of elements to it that, when we breathe, does all sorts of magical chemical things to our body. And so I think just going out, and I actually am a tree hugger. So I actually do go into that. I actually will stop and I will touch a tree. I will put my body on a tree and just stop and touch the tree. I know that sounds hippy-dippy, and I'm not really hippy-dippy, but it's something I'm just really drawn to do. Yeah. I think it just grounds you to remind yourself that all that crap doesn't matter, and, just stop and appreciate that moment. It's mindfulness. Mindfulness is really important as well, I think.
Yeah. Great tips. Well, it has just been such a pleasure having you on the Sweet Spot today, Helen. We have some ways for everybody to connect to Helen further at the bottom of the landing page. Good luck with recycled interiors, and gosh, I look forward to more of what you're doing now that you're more focused on recycled interiors. I think it'll just go from skyrocket along.
Hopefully it will. Yeah. I'm excited about the book, so that's the project.
And the book. Yes, I look forward to seeing the book as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for watching tonight, everybody. And we'll see you all again tomorrow night with another great interview. Bye.